When people like Gary Neville and Rio Ferdinand sign up to something, are they signing up then to salary caps and wage controls? Because I bet they bloody well not, because that's part and parcel of what's needed to reset the whole landscape of football. They'll pick and choose. Are they talking about guys coming in that own football clubs that they're involved with, which are billionaires that run football clubs in Valencia that don't run them the way the country would want it?
Can I just ask you something? Because I think you've stumbled on a point there for me. I have to be honest. The lack of knowledge on this for me. Simon's better at this type of thing than me. But my question is quite a simple one: is that if you're talking about an independent regulator or governing body, how the hell do you make sure that everybody involved in that independent body is legitimate, honest, integral, and not got their own agenda?
Don't get them from football. Get them from football. But
even then, we're looking at corruption in UEFA, at FIFA. Yeah. We've, there's things going on at the PFA. We're talking about,
but the bottom line is you want to protect the traditional football pyramid.
But what I'm saying, Jim, that there's 92 clubs we're talking about, and below that. So how do you bring?
But it's really simple. It's really simple. If we're going to protect the other 72 clubs and the clubs below that, change the distribution model. Just change. And how are you going to do that? You have to get the broadcasters on board. You have to get the Premier League on board. You have to get the Premier League to say, we're a bunch of turkeys voting for Christmas. We're prepared. They weren't prepared to give bugger all. You've seen our example that Ollie Holt wrote in a brilliant article that he wrote over the weekend on the Mail on Sunday, talking about one of the best guys of the bunch was Steve Parish at Crystal Palace, talking about how distribution is. But his argument was that the supermarkets have to fund the local corner shops. And he's the best one of the bunch. The attitude is very simple. Unless you're going to break that particular egg and make a different omelette, you're going to have the same situation. And how you get past it now, with the Premier League having to accept the fact that all the money going to them is what's destroying football. It's destroying the framework of this country. Yeah. And all the money going to the players is what's made the greed of the big six become more prevalent. And unless you're going to reset all these,
so does the government
you're barking at the moon.
Would a regulator have stopped the big six debacle, the Super League debacle? If that had been in place by now?
Well, it depends how you change the framework of
because
club ownership.
Because they're a lot of themselves, aren't
they can... If Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal all want to leave the Premier League, then it almost provides the argument that they are very important in the first place. So it's trying to find that balance, because everyone was terrified of them leaving, because ultimately the blueprint is that it destroys the rest of football. Because on one hand we say they're not the big six, on the other hand we're terrified that they leave because they'll take away all the revenues with them. Would a regulator have controlled that? No, the Premier League could have controlled that, because they did. Because the Premier League didn't. Well, they did. They stopped them from doing it. They would have thrown them out.
How does the regulator become powerful enough? Is that government?
It's legislation, isn't it?
Legislation comes in place.
The problem is that FIFA there'll be a challenge if a UK government legislates and changes the landscape around football legislation. Okay. So we're in very difficult territory here.
Yeah, I mean, something had to happen though after the botched Super League, and this is the something.
But this wasn't it, Jim. This was already on the. This was something that was already being done. This independent regulation was put in last summer by David Bernstein. Yeah. He came on our show and talked about the need for an independent regulator and asked me would I be interested in getting involved in it, and I said not particularly with the people that you've got around you, right? So I don't like it. I think there are people that will get involved in this that have big agendas that are hypocrites. So I don't want to be involved in that, because I think it's another power grab for another set of people that will have David Bernstein was the chairman of the FA. God love David, I like him very much, and I thought he was the most effective FA chairman ever, or certainly in recent times. But we're now talking about people that were ineffective in their jobs, really, despite being an effective, bad one amongst a bad bunch, a good one amongst a bad bunch. And now coming into the fore saying, OK, we'll be good at being independent regulators. I wasn't able to change things when I was the chairman of the FA, but I'll be able to change it when I've got an independent regulation.
So, at least Neville, Ferdinand, Carragher, Lineker are coming forward.
What would be the main strengths and qualities and characteristics needed of somebody, if we did get to a point where there was an independent regulator, somebody heading that? But to do what? Great communicator, good at financial background. What are we looking at? Or a group of people?
We are really only arguing about one. The reasons we're saying that the football model is broken is because of the fact that the Premier League came into existence and went into the ether, right, and left everyone behind economically. So what we're talking about is, do we want a fans charter? Do we want better seats inside the stadium? Do we want a fans charter for pricing policies? Do we want to tell private businesses, to some extent, which football clubs are, although they're in a public domain, how they price for fans? Do we want government involvement on how legislation? Because you don't want that. You do not want a regulator.
Can they legally do that?
Say again?
Could they legally do that?
If they're given the powers, by the same way that the Ofcom regulate the way that broadcasters are able to say things and not say things, the way that the regulators for the gas authorities can get underneath their pricing policies and what the customer should experience, you'll get that territory. So you need to be very careful what you want. But this is all about distribution and fairness of distribution.
And you think it's too late because that ship has sailed?
Well, I think it's currently. If you're
Never too late.
if you're saying that Sky have just signed, we just announced that Sky have signed a new deal,
yeah.
right? And all that money stays as it is, right? So it's now moved from 10% for 72 clubs to 11%. Well, that'll fix it. And then when you try to fix the idea that we need to control player salaries, along come the players' union and say we need to make that illegal because that's not fair and proper. And we've got to have really big people with big thinking that have got big balls rather than people that stand on platforms that are hypocritical about their own point of view.
Sure, but a regulator outside of this, coming in like this, is going to attempt to sort out some of the things that you've just mentioned.
Not without legislation. They
Not
won't have
without
the power
legislation.
to.
You know, you can. You know, what you'll do is if you get as many signatures as you get over 100,000 signatures, you start to get it read in Parliament. That's what they're trying to drive towards, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll get a select committee that will be sat there with people that don't really understand what they're asking. Because we had a select committee the other day, and people going up in arms about the fact that people didn't ask certain particular questions.
Yeah.
Remember?
No,
I think it was
I
about
remember
European
that.
Super League.
I mean, the government, could the government railroad it through without football's permission?
Be very difficult. But also, if we're talking about the ownership crisis, because fans must understand what this really means, because at the centre of it really is about money. If they believe it's about fan ownership, then they're misguided. It will be about how we distribute properly. Because the one thing that came out of Project Big Picture that set a blueprint was a 25% distribution of money down to the Championship, League One and League Two.
Yeah.
Now, if you can distribute down what you want. Alan Sugar made a very salient point the other day, amongst a variety of salient points. It doesn't matter how much money you give them. If you don't get the governance right, it'll still be in the same situation. You give them £10 million a year, £10 billion a year rather than two. It'll still be the same problem unless you get the fabric right. But then you've got to look at the people that are involved in it and say, are these people advancing it the right way? Is there an honest focus behind some of the thinking behind this? And I do question it, Jim.
Sure, but if anybody can add to the weight and the force of a regulator, it's you. I mean, would you not be interested in signing up to it, Simon, to attempt to get this thing up and running so that there is a fairer share around the
I would be
pyramid?
interested in doing it if the people that were involved, in my view, were of a better quality. Sorry,
Okay.
you might think
Quality
that's
or
a
integrity?
bit of both.
Because that's the
Bit of
key
both.
to this. I think we all agree on one thing, don't we? Protecting the football pyramid and
Yes.
changing the distribution.
Oh,
of wealth.
absolutely. I am the biggest campaigner. I've sat here for 18 months saying, oh, lovely, because everyone's getting up in arms about the top six. Oh, that's outrageous. But what about the other 14 clubs that couldn't give a monkeys about the
No, I
about
just wanted to
pyramids?
reiterate a point that although you're making some objective
fans.
points, the fact is you, like every one of us, cares about the football pyramid, and actually, whatever we need
I
to do...
think we're entitled to better. We are entitled to far better. We're entitled to far better from the players, from the managers, from every aspect of football than we currently get at times.
Sign up to it. Go on.
Listen, you've got enough voices there.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.